So, today on the Therapy Dogs Australia podcast, we're going to make our way through our most frequently asked questions, diving into a whole lot of detail. If you have any extra questions at the end of this podcast, send us a message on our socials and we'll do our best to answer them for you. Let's tuck in. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Therapy Dogs Australia podcast. You've got Sam King here. Hello, and myself, Max. Today we're going to talk about frequently asked questions because we get lots of them, and especially after the Dog Lovers Festival, which we were just at the other weekend. We've got a lot of frequently asked questions that I think need to be covered again for everybody.
Absolutely. And we have a page of frequently asked questions on our website, but it's not going to answer every single question that people have, and probably not in the amount of detail, which must be the case because we still get asked those questions via emails very regularly.
Daily.
Yep. And via our socials. So obviously, people are excited about, therapy dog world. So I think it's fun to, I'm the type of person, actually I haven't told you this, Max, but I'm getting a puppy.
Oh my goodness.
Max is freaking out.
You just waited to tell me now. Just for that reaction. Oh my gosh.
Because I was about to say, I like to immerse myself completely in like what I'm doing. So I'm getting a livestock guardian dog.
Oh
Do you know
my
what that
goodness.
is?
Yes. Yeah.
So for anyone who doesn't know, if anyone listened to the podcast last season and were like joking about me getting goats, I did get goats. So
which are turning out to be high maintenance as well.
They are high maintenance, especially Southeast Queensland goats and sheep. I am learning it is a bit of a mission. But anyway, the goats are really cute. We love them. They're the best. It was 4 little goats, 2 sets of twins. We named them Comet, Rocket, Mercury, and Venus, and they're very cute. And
they're just out of this world.
yeah, literally. I should write that somewhere in there. Paddock, that's so cute. So my clients love them. Like, they are great little therapy goats. We should do a goat podcast because I've got some really cute stories, really, really cute stories.
Have they warmed up to the dogs yet?
Yeah.
That's great.
They're much
all
more
friends,
neutral to each other. So, anyway, a livestock guardian dog is a dog that guards your livestock. So we have a dingo problem in this area. So everything that we have has to be locked up at night. So my dogs can't just be in the house yard at night. They have to be locked up in like smaller areas attached to the house. Our chickens have to be, properly locked up, and our goats have to be properly locked up at night because we do have dingoes that come through each night.
Are they nocturnal? Dingoes
Yes.
Nocturnal? Yeah, okay.
I have seen a dingo in my backyard at 2:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
That was about a year ago.
Gave Oliver a bit of trouble, was it?
Oh yeah, so these dingoes, not to upset anybody, but they have attacked every dog in this area. Like, so all of my immediate neighbors have had dogs attacked. Multiple have had them fatally attacked.
Aww.
But others have had their dogs just dusted up. Like, you've got a larger dog. There was the smaller dogs that they took out, but the larger dogs that can get quite dusted up. And my dogs did get dusted up when I accidentally left the gate open one night because I went through one gate and then came back into the house through a different gate.
Yeah.
And Nala got a bite on the bum.
Oh,
and Oliver got 2 bites, but only on his fur because he's so fluffy. So yeah, it's just saliva marks on his fur at 4 o'clock in the morning, screaming in the yard. Anyway, oh God. So lesson learned. Anyway, the idea behind a livestock guardian dog is that you can, so they are confirmed dingoes. Everyone asks me that. Another frequently asked question. We've all got them on our cameras and stuff like that. And the council have been out and tried to trap them multiple times. No one can trap them. Some neighbours have tried to hire contract shooters. No one can get these things. Everyone's got them on their trail cams. No one can get these dingoes. They're so smart.
Smart cookies, yeah.
Smart little cookies. So the idea behind a livestock guardian dog is to live peacefully with the wildlife that's in your area so that you don't have to try and eradicate them. You, but you can have your own livestock not predated on. So you don't lose your goats and chickens and other dogs to predators because your livestock guardian dog is a massive
They're
60
huge,
kilo. Yeah.
practically bears.
They're huge. They're massive and very intimidating. If it came down to it, if there was a predator that wasn't going to respect the livestock guardian dog's territory, then it would be a fight and your livestock guardian dog would probably win the fight. But yeah, the idea is that that doesn't happen because we don't want obviously injured dogs, etc., etc. But anyway, so the point is, so I like to immerse myself in everything that I'm learning about because it's a big responsibility. These guys, so this is a different type of dog
Yeah.
than I've ever trained
Yeah.
before. It's a guard dog. So that's the opposite of a therapy dog.
Complete opposite.
Complete opposite.
Yeah.
So we're setting things up now, building a
Oh my God, that's
room.
so exciting though.
Oh, it's going to be fun.
Anytime, yeah, anytime there's a new baby.
I'm nervous because it's a different thing, like a really different way to go, and it's a big dog and it's a big responsibility. So I've been, Googling and researching and watching YouTube videos on how to train these dogs and listening to podcasts on how people are working with their livestock guardian dogs and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours I've done of research. This dog doesn't come for another 3 weeks, but hours and hours and hours and hours. So I think there would be people out there that are the similar and really want to get their head around these things or get excited about something and want to learn as much about it as they can or make informed choices and all those sorts of things. So none of our podcasts are very punchy and to the point. So if that's kind of what you're looking for, you might need to just pop this on while you're cleaning the house or something. Like just try and get through it. But you can always just email us as well. So that's fine. If we're taking too long to answer your question.
It's a good time though.
It's a great time. So there's quite a few. The first thing we're going to start with is what is a therapy dog? Because this is the main question that we get asked. So at the Dog Lovers Festival, we were definitely asked this question about 7,000 times, which is fine. So I also do think it's a little bit like maybe frustrating or disappointing that we still don't know what this is.
Yeah.
That's not anyone's fault who's listening. That's the industry. So it's crazy to me. And so, because also what happens is people argue with us about what is a therapy dog, which I'm just showing my screen for anyone who's watching this. People argue with us about what is a therapy dog.
Did you get that on the weekend, the festival?
Yeah, and it's because they've got a preconceived idea about what they're asking for. Someone else has said something or they've seen something somewhere that calls an assistance dog a therapy dog.
Okay, well, that's very confusing.
It's so confusing. It's so confusing. So it's one of those things that it's probably not, I mean, I have had people argue with me, but I probably get a bit more sort of like the miscommunication that's happening. So I'm trying to explain what's going on, but they've already got this information in their head that's like rock solid. And so it's hard for them to hear what I'm saying because they've already got those questions answered and they're trying to tell me something else that like, no, I want a therapy dog. And I'm like, so it really sounds like you want an assistance dog though, from everything you're saying.
Or a
like,
companion dog.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
let's sort it out. This is on our frequently asked questions page, this graphic. So made by our wonderful Amy. Go and have a look at it. But it's a really simple, especially dog trainers, have a look at it because it's a really, really simple infographic of like what are the roles of each dog. the way I was explaining this at the Dog Lovers Festival, so our dogs are there like there's photos on our socials and stuff, but our dogs are there like being so just obsessed with everyone patting them, and they're like sitting out in the middle of the walkways trying to get as many pats as possible from the people that are going past, and just really enjoying um interacting with people. So when the dog is doing that, it's really, I'm just gonna pull this up. It's really important that um, people understand the difference. My job, so what I was saying to people is, my job today is to support Nala, who's my dog. So I'm here to support Nala to do this job, which is her interactions with all these people that are here. And a service dog, then the dog's job is to support me. So if I had a service dog here, that dog's job is to support me at the festival. With a therapy dog here, it's my job to support the dog at the festival.
So the
Does that make
dog
sense?
can then support show support
Yes.
to other people.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
correct. So it's a really simple difference that is somehow lost in translation. And I don't think it needs to be so difficult to separate the two. But basically, if the dog is supporting the person, the handler, that's an assistance dog. If the handler is supporting the dog to do their work, which is their therapy dog work, then that's a therapy dog. Okay. What most people are looking for in an assistance dog from the conversations that I've had with people is public access rights. That is the only way that you can have your dog out in like Coles or whatever, where dogs aren't allowed without permission from the store owner. So the legislation protects assistance dogs to be in these public spaces. A therapy dog or a companion dog, they don't have public access rights. So if what you're looking for, so say you want to go into a rental or something and dogs aren't allowed, or you want to take your dog to your workplace or whatever that, to support you there, then public access rights are only for assistance dogs or service dogs. Those terms have been interchangeable over time, but I think assistance dog is the preferred term at the moment. So if that's what you're looking for, then you're looking for an assistance dog.
And on
If
top
you're
of
looking,
that, I think that sorry to interject, I think that with assistance dogs as well, not every assistance dog has public access rights. Like I think you still have to jump through some hoops. Is that correct? To
it depends
prove that you need them in public.
it depends what state you're in and
Yeah, right.
like there's national legislation and there's state legislation.
Mm.
So I refer everybody to assistance pause because Lisa knows everything. So just Google assistance pause, and if it comes up and there's a lady called Lisa on there, she knows everything about it. So there's yeah, I won't comment too much on it because it's not my area. We don't train assistance dogs. So this is as far as we get with the conversation. Do you want an assistance dog or a therapy dog? We figure out it's an assistance dog and we say, cool, good luck. Here's some of the trainers. Here's the terminology to search for when you're Googling. Don't search for therapy dog. Don't Google therapy dogs. Google assistance dog or service dog, because both of those phrases are being used still. So I've got my opinions about, how many people really need an assistance dog, because the cost and the effort and the input is exponential. So it sort of looks easy because it's talked about so much, and then it seems like there's assistance dogs everywhere, but it's not easy, and it's not easy on the dog. So if you
Mm.
think about something like the Dog Lovers Festival, that was a really full-on environment, and our dogs needed us to support them in that environment. They were fine, but they definitely needed support. I just can't imagine going into an environment like that and having a dog that needs to support me. How much work would have to go into that dog to get them to a point where they themselves could handle that environment and handle whatever's going on with me.
Yeah, it takes a very special dog.
Really special dog,
Mm.
really special dog. So, I, as far as what the cost and time input, as far as that's considered, I just don't know how many people outside of, organizations that are funding the dogs for people. I just don't know how people are doing it themselves. Obviously, people are, and that's great. But to me, I just think, oh my gosh, like what a journey.
Mm. Mm.
What a journey.
So much work, so much money.
Yeah.
And then you have to be training the next dog. You don't have,
I
a
know.
whole lot of time before you
I
have to start
know.
thinking about, retiring them.
Full on. Um, Even when you're getting like, so this livestock guardian puppy, they don't all turn out perfect. Like their instincts are bred into them. I'm getting an Anatolian Shepherd for anyone who's playing along at home, which is a
Are they
pretty,
the white ones?
they're no,
No, okay.
they're like a massive mastiff.
Oh, yeah.
They're like the biggest one.
Anatolian.
I'm Googling it. Here you
Oh, yes.
go.
Oh my gosh, they are. They are the biggest ones.
Oh, Stony Dennis has some videos with the Anatolians. He's had it. If anyone follows Stony Dennis, it was great. I found them the other day. He's a dog trainer. So anyway, um, if the dog doesn't, I'm such a sucker. Like if the dog doesn't work out to be the appropriate livestock guardian that you need, people will sell them on or rehome them or whatever. I just am I will just change my life to suit the dog.
Same.
Like
100% the same. Yeah.
I am so terrible with it. Like I just
You just
cannot.
love them.
I'm just such a sucker. So, um, and I think a lot of people are the same. So if got a dog and it turns out whether you get a puppy or a rescue dog or whatever, and you're thinking it's going to be an assistance dog, and it turns out to not be that standard of dog, which is highly likely if you look at the rates that get through the guide dogs programs, and I don't know what Smart Pups numbers are. Um, I would just be like, yeah, I would just be like, oh, okay, so no service dog. Like I just have this dog and love it then.
Yeah, just a very big furry giant.
I guess that's what people would do, but I don't know. Anyway, what I tell, so I'm a psychologist. So I work primarily with young people on the spectrum. My computer's really trying to shut itself down. Um, and with ADHD and stuff like that. But primarily, people on the spectrum are talking about assistance dogs, service dogs for themselves. Um, I like the idea of them being able to be supported because I know that certainly when I first got Sunny, it was a big deal for me to have a little buddy that I could take. And when I got him, I just only went places where dogs were allowed. So um, it wasn't, yeah, and which there are heaps of places. Like you can go to there's certain
Yeah.
markets and um
Yeah, there's no shortage
stores.
of places you can take your dog.
Yeah. So I was just doing that and like going to friends' houses where I could take the dog and stuff like that. So I get it because like it really was like having a little buddy, like and it made my world a bit bigger because I'm one of those people that would never go to like a cafe by myself and like
Yeah.
have breakfast. No way. Like that is so far outside of
Yeah,
anything
I'm
I would
not,
ever do. No,
that's
no.
not, yeah, it's not really what I would jump to doing.
I see people doing it. I'm like, wow,
Oh, I
so brave.
admire, yeah, I admire them.
So brave. Like, and I don't even think that they look like a loser because they're by themselves.
No,
I don't even think
it
that.
never crosses my mind ever.
I just think they're like a hero. I'm just like, look at you. Look at you go. You're just doing whatever you want. I love it. Uh, so anyway, when I got the dog, I could go to cafes by myself because I wasn't by myself. I was with my dog.
Exactly.
So it was like little things like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, um, so I get it. However, so Sunny was a companion dog. A companion dog is a family pet who provides great benefit and comfort to their owner. That's just a pet dog. Okay. So people call them companion dogs. I think in the States it's a bigger deal. Um,
Mm.
in Australia, we don't have any legal rights uh, to protect these dogs. So you don't get public access rights with a companion dog. Now, we have got down the very bottom of this infographic here, may live with their disabled owner even if there's a no pets policy in place. May. So it's they're not protected by the legislation in this country. There's no testing for them. Like your service dog would do some kind of typically would do some kind of public access test of some sort. Typically, I'm not going to comment too much on that. So the dog's not registered with anyone, blah, blah, blah. So it's a pet dog. But so if you look at all the research that we've got available, the majority of the research that we have about uh, the positive benefit of dogs is pet dogs. So
Mm.
I really don't want people to underestimate just how powerful having, you guys should all, everyone's listening to this should know, like if you've had a pet dog, they change your life. Like it's
Yeah.
for the better or the
100%.
worse.
Well, it's, learning opportunities. It's the way you look at it.
Yeah, and a well-trained, happy, friendly, a well-adjusted pet dog just adds so much to your life. It's such a special, beautiful thing. I really don't want people to underestimate it. And I talk to my families a lot of, the young people that I see about, but what about if we can't do the assistance dog thing because the smart pups waiting list is however long and it costs however much to train a dog and blah blah blah. What about just really enjoying our pet dog?
Mm.
Like what about just really building our relationship with our pet dog and just really having that sort of thing in place where you're getting all those benefits that I got that from Sunny. So, and he was never an assistance dog. That wasn't the idea. The idea was that he was my best friend and we did everything together and that made my world bigger. So, like yeah. And obviously everyone's situation is different.
Yeah, I think
Um,
also sometimes the approach to training changes when you've got a pet dog versus when you're like, okay, this is going to be a therapy dog or an assistance dog. But like if you applied that same dedication to your pet dog, you'd be surprised with the sorts of um
yeah.
yeah,
And that's
relationship and trust and things that you can build from that.
And that's how, like, all puppies get started the same way. That we
Mm,
start every puppy the same way, no matter what job they're going into. Did you know livestock guardian dogs get started the same way? Is that mind blowing?
that's crazy.
That's crazy to me. Um, all the breeders I spoke to, socialize them exactly the same way that you would
Mm,
any dog. And I was like, really? Like, because they're a guard dog, like they're meant to
yeah.
guard, like they're not going to be
They
friendly to.
really need to be socialized to the right environment too, though, I imagine.
Yeah, but so like you do all this stuff, like you do this like bonding them with the livestock and stuff when they're young. Um, and there's all these ways around that. And we've got a bit of a unique setup here where the dog will be guarding the house, the other dogs, the goats, the chickens, blah blah blah. So it's a guard dog. So it's not a friendly everybody like, when I was like people come to the house here and my dogs like
Mm,
run up and greet them. It's not that. So
mm.
this dog has to get looked up, like it's not going to be that type of dog. But they still get started the same way as puppies. So all three of these dogs, assistance dog, therapy dog, and companion dog, up until like the 12-month mark. So you're going to have your socialization stuff up until 16 weeks. We've got podcasts on that that you can have a look at. Go to our juniors page on the website. They're on there so that you can find them easily. So we have that 16 weeks. From 16 weeks to 12 months, you're really going to be working on your relationship and your communication. So you need to become a good dog handler if you want to have any of these three dogs. So if you want to have a good companion dog, pet dog, if you want to have a working therapy dog, or if you want to have an assistance dog, you've got to become a good dog handler. So unless someone else is training the dog for you, and like if it's an assistance dog scenario and someone else is training the dog for you, and then it's gonna have become preloaded with all the buttons, that's different. But if we're doing a owner trained assistance dog, then you will have to train a dog to be an assistance dog. You got to get pretty good at your dog train. Even dog trainers struggle. So yeah, professional dog trainers. So it's going to be the same. Then when the dog gets, so I've been telling people when the dog gets to 12 months old, like we're just going to raise the dog the best way we can. We're not going to panic and stress. So one of the things I'm seeing a lot in my puppy and adolescent schools is people are putting a lot of pressure on themselves and their dogs because they really want to get to this goal, this ultimate goal when the dog is 12 months old, that it can be a therapy dog. The problem with that is that we're stressed, like we're getting stressed while we are raising this young dog. And I just think that that's really detrimental to our relationship. And I just want us to enjoy our puppies. I really want everybody to really just enjoy your puppy, enjoy your young dog, because that time is over so quickly.
It does. It
And
flies by.
it just flies by.
It's
And
such a
then
beautiful time. Every time I see someone out with a puppy, I'm like, oh, it's such a special
I
time.
know, so special. Put
Um,
put so much effort into your relationship and get good at your dog handling. Like get good at that. Get good at your timing, get good at your communication. Really get to know your dog, bond with them, do fun stuff with them, take them places and do things and all that sort of stuff, because that's what's going to give you the best outcome. And we've got juniors programs that can help you along the way. But the ultimate thing is that when that dog gets to 12 months old, or really 2 years, but 12 months gives us a pretty good idea, we're going to know whether or not the dog is going to be a therapy dog, an assistance dog, or a pet dog. The dog is going to tell you. The dog will tell you what it's going to be doing. So just like an 18-year-old human is going to be telling you what they're doing with their life too. So they get to that point, we will be able to tell from the temperament of the dog, from what types of things they enjoy, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to be able to tell. We're going to let the dog tell us what they want to do. Then your more refined training and handling is going to come into play. So, talking about this for a while, but if you're looking for a dog that is going to be able to go to Coles with you or whatever, then you're looking for an assistance dog. If you're looking for a dog that is going to go, you're going to go and visit nursing homes, or you're taking it into your workplace as your allied health role, or you're taking it into school as an educator, and the dog is going to assist you to deliver your service to the students or clients or participants, that's a therapy dog. Okay, so they're working alongside their handler to provide support to many other people. If you just really want a dog, so let's say you've got, this is the common story. Let's say that you've got a couple of kids at home and they've got, neurodivergence or, anxiety or something like that. And you just really want a quote unquote therapy dog to provide them with support and friendship and all those things. But you don't need that dog to go to school with them, or you don't need the dog to go to Coles with them. That's a companion dog. And let me tell you, that is going to be, if you can get a happy, confident companion dog, that's great. Like The benefits are huge, but if you're trying to train a puppy in a household where there's a lot of disorganization and there's, it's chaotic and no one's regulating the dog, everyone's dysregulating the dog. As a young dog, that will be a really tough time. So that first 12 to 24 months of trying to raise that dog to be a support is really hard. And I will just warn that I have had multiple reports. These kids they don't like the dog. The kids don't like the dog. And generally the reason is that the dog has it's going through adolescence and it's jumping and it's biting and it's chasing and it's barking and it's doing all these things. And the kids don't like it because it's an invasion of their sensory stuff. So, and the dog's freaking them out and they, kids, they just do everything that makes it worse, like screaming and running and, revving the dog up in play. They'll rev the dogs up in play and then the dogs go stupid and then the kids freak out and scream and run away and then the dog jumps on them and then it's tears and then we end up with the dogs locked out of the house or locked up in their crates, which they should be anyway, but when, because the kids don't want them around. So just be aware that that can happen and it happens quite a bit because to raise a well-adjusted dog, we do need a stable environment. So
a lot of structure.
Yes. So that's not to say it can't be done. Obviously, it can be done. It just is a lot of work. So just be ready to set things up in your household so that you can give yourself and the dog the biggest chance at success possible. In puppy school over the last how many weeks, I've had multiple families saying like, how do I stop my toddlers and kids from harassing the dog and then the dog biting them and then them screaming and blah, blah, blah. Like people ask me that all the time. And I'm like, so the correct answer to that is that the dog training official answer to that is that you stop your kids from doing that. But the real life answer to that is that no one's stopping any of these kids from doing nothing because it's chaos. Like it's chaos right now and you can't be everywhere at once. And, kids, they just do stuff. You can directly tell them not to do something and they just do it. Like it's kids. Like they don't have impulse control. They don't have regulation. They don't have force regulation. They're still developing all of that. So really, like all of our interactions with the dog have to be guided and supervised. That's official advice, right? That's the correct thing to do. But imagine like you're in a household. Some people have like 3 kids. You're in a household with all these kids and you're just trying to get through life and get dinner cooked or whatever, just trying to get things done. And, now you've got to sort all this out with these kids and the dog and all this stuff going on. So I get it. I really do get it. Just be ready. So like, we're getting ready. We're building a 10-meter by 6-meter dog run next to our goat paddock this weekend in the rain. For the puppy, because we have to set things up differently because we're getting a different dog. So it's not just going to be a dog that's just locked up with my therapy dogs all the time because my therapy dogs are going to be working with clients and greeting people when they arrive and doing all those sorts of things. And that's not what the other dog's going to be doing. So we need to get our spaces set up correctly before our dog arrives. So that's just a little warning for people to be aware of that because that does happen. Same thing with any of the assistance therapy or companion dog. You can have the same issues where they end up, the dog and the kids not getting along. If we can get through that time using management strategies, I think generally it works out okay. But it's just a lot of time and effort. So just be aware of that. Before you get your dog, or if you've already got the dog, just feel validated by that you're not alone. Like it's a really common, it's a common thing that people go through. Okay, if anyone wants any more information on that, the graphics there on our frequently asked questions page on the website. But just to finish up on that topic, we train therapy dogs. We do not train assistance dogs and we do not train companion dogs. But if you want a really great companion dog, the puppy and adolescent webinars would probably be quite useful, but there's some things in there that we do differently.
It's pretty great for raising a well-adjusted dog, though, overall. So,
if you want an extroverted, well-adjusted, friendly dog,
yeah.
then yes. If you want something there's just a few things that we do differently, but it's a good place to start anyway, because there's lots of general knowledge in there about dogs, raising dogs and all that, especially the puppy one, because they're all the same anyway, pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Okay. So we've answered what is a therapy dog.
The next one is, can my dog be a therapy dog in Australia?
Yes, your dog can be a therapy dog in Australia. It's up to, so like we were saying, there's no legislation to protect you for public access. So yes, your dog, it's open to the employer. So if you want to take your therapy dog into a workplace where you're working, that decision is up to your employer, your staff, or whoever is in charge, management, that's the word. If you're wanting to take your dog into a facility, a nursing home or a hospital or whatever, it's up to the facility. So it's at the discretion of the facility. That's why we need to do things like risk assessments and get informed consent and all of those things. Whereas if you were training an assistance dog, you're going in there, the dog's just allowed to go in there with you. But that huge difference being your assistant dog is going in there with you, it's not interacting with other people in the environment. So it shouldn't change anything at all about you going in there. But when you're taking in a therapy dog, you're taking this dog in to interact with other people in the environment, which means that you're now telling people, hey, you can pat my dog, this dog is friendly, which means that you're now responsible for the interaction that happens between the dog and the person that you're visiting, which means that you need insurance to make sure that you're covered for public liability. And we encourage people to get professional indemnity in most cases as well. So that's something to be aware of, and informed consent is really key. So yes, you can have a therapy dog in Australia, but you need to keep those things in mind.
Yeah.
That might lead us straight into insurance questions for therapy dogs. We don't recommend specific insurers because that is the type of advice that we're not qualified to give. I've used insurance brokers in the past. So if you're looking for insurance, maybe look into using a broker. If you're in the allied health world and you're in private practice and you've already got your professional indemnity and public liability insurances, your insurer is likely to add animal assisted therapy to your existing policy. There are some insurers that will make you buy a second policy. There are some that will not. So what we are hearing from the insurance companies is that the dog needs to be trained and assessed professionally. So make sure they were asking a lot of questions about that. Every time we've renewed our insurance every year, you need to let them know every year that you've got that you're doing animal assisted therapy, you've got a therapy dog or equine, whatever it is. You need to let your insurance company know about that, and they will ask questions about who trained the dog, and they can ask to see certificates as well that your dog's currently been assessed. So like we reassess the dogs every 12 months. So be aware of that. If you're going into visitation settings, I would use an insurance broker or flick us an email. But generally speaking, we can't recommend specific insurance companies because we haven't done market research on them and haven't compared them. But we might be able to connect you with a broker if you can't find one.
I suppose this is the closest thing we get to regulation as well.
We don't have a regulatory body in Australia for therapy dogs or animal assisted therapy. So it can be a little bit of a free-for-all or perceived as a bit of a free-for-all. The issue with that is that you're going to be liable for anything that you do. So if anything goes wrong, and for our professionals in allied health as well who are registered with AHPRA, just being aware that there's disciplinary action that can be taken in that regard as well, if things go pear-shaped. So when there's no rules until you get in trouble. And then all of a sudden there was all these secret rules that no one knew about because there's no regulatory body. Generally speaking, we're all responsible for things that we do. And what I like to remind people is that if you're potentially liable for creating an additional risk in your workplace or your service delivery, which is bringing in a dog that could jump on someone, scratch someone, hurt someone, bite someone, whatever, scare someone. If you're increasing the risk, I think that you need to then mitigate for that. So there are ways to mitigate that, which include buying insurance, having an insurance policy for it. That then makes the insurance provider your regulator. So just like any other insurance policy that you buy, your duty of disclosure will impact whether or not you're insured if something actually happens. So you can't just lie and say, all my doors, I've got Crim Safe on them when they don't. And then you get broken into and they're like, okay, well, so you don't have any insurance because you didn't have Crim Safe. Like, they stole all the windows. Windows all got stolen. And replaced with very dodgy fly screen. I'll have to ring my insurance company.
Did that actually happen? Just checking.
I have to ring my insurance company and let them know I got a guard dog in case it brings my premium down. Because it went way up.
Really?
My house insurance premium went up $200 a month.
Wow.
Isn't that wild?
Wow.
And then I tried to get another insurance policy and they won't do it. They won't do. People don't realize this because I have people that come to I have clients that come to the property. Insurance company won't insure you.
Wow, that's unfair.
My current one does, but it's very expensive. And I tried to get another one and they were like, no, we just won't do it. And I was like, come on, guys. Fine, I'm getting a big dog. And then I'm canceling my home insurance and just like getting a heap of fire extinguishers. $200 a month. It's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Huge amount of money.
So, the idea being, so I could just lie. I could just lie to the insurance company, my home insurance, and be like, oh, yeah, no, we don't have people that come to the property. But then when your house gets broken into and everything gets stolen or it burns down or whatever, they'll find out. They're going to do everything they can to not have to rebuild your house or whatever. So if they find out that you lied about that, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm pretty sure that that would give them an opportunity to not have to buy you a new house. So I don't know, but I'm just saying, I reckon. So yeah.
Hence why it is
that noise was my rooster.
Important to actually train your dog and actually have a standard to stick to, because they will find out. Yeah. And well, I think so. You might get away with it. It's one of those things. Like I've been at this house for 3 years. I could have just not had home insurance this whole time. And like, what? I haven't had to claim anything. So I would have saved myself. Oh my gosh, I don't even want to calculate how much money that is. Oh, that's devastating. That is devastating. And nothing can happen, but like, I could have saved thousands of dollars, but that's not the point. The point is that you need to have it for when something does happen. But anyway, that's obviously people can make their own choices about that, but that's what we are just letting people know, that this is, how we kind of inform our decision-making process and what we think is important. And also, we have, so it's like when you drive your car around and you've got third-party insurance, you have to have that like on your rego, your compulsory CTP. You know why you have to have that? So that you can't just make the decision to not buy insurance because you don't care about your car,
but then you crash into someone else's $50,000 car and you can't fix it. So you just declare bankruptcy or whatever, and they just have no car. So it's to protect the other person that you've damaged their property. So that's what your public liabilities is about. And so I think it's very irresponsible to not have that, because if your dog does actually hurt somebody, they need to be able to sue you for the medical expenses. And that's my understanding of, I probably shouldn't give people any advice about this because I really don't know.
Yeah, this isn't professional advice.
This isn't professional advice, but from an ethical standpoint, actually, I'll just tell a little story about why I'm making this up. So my friend has insurance for the horses, and a client horse got stuck in a fence or whatever and had to have surgery. And she thought, because she's got insurance, she thought she could just ring up her insurance company and pay an excess and they would just pay for the surgery. But that's not the case. The client, the insurance company was like, no, they need to sue you. So that's why I
Oh,
said that. And
wow.
I know it sounded
Okay.
like I just made that up, but that's why I'm telling you. That's
Yeah, no, I didn't know.
like
I
bit
didn't
of
know.
context. I know. And we
Didn't
were
know
like,
that.
what? Because with your car, you just pay an excess.
Yeah.
But I think that it's different with these other types of insurances. So anyway, I'm just giving a bit of context of
It's probably to
where that
give
came
them an
from.
opportunity, like if the person doesn't sue,
I know,
then
right?
they don't have to deal with it.
I know.
Mm.
Which is so frustrating because um you shouldn't have to go through that process. But anyway,
No.
that's what she told me. So that's anecdotal, secondhand information, everybody. Not professional advice, but she told me that she felt so bad because the client's horse needed this surgery, and she was like, "Oh, you have to sue me. Sorry." Like, and then the insurance company would like pay it out or whatever. I
That's
know.
a whole process too.
I
So yeah,
know. I
lawyers and all
know.
that.
Anyway, so that's why I said that. So I think it's irresponsible and ethically questionable if you don't have at least your public liability insurance, because my understanding is that if someone gets injured and they need care, um, that's how they get their care paid for. So whether they have to sue you or not, I don't know. I don't know how it works. Anyway.
It's just good to know.
Tune in for all of our professional advice that we're making up from what we reckon.
What we reckon is
What I reckon.
what we reckon. So we have, can I volunteer with my dog in Australia as a therapy dog? We have sort of answered this, but say again, yes.
It's actually a really good question, because this is one thing that separates Therapy Dogs Australia from some of the other training providers, which is we don't dictate where you can take your dog. So some of the other assessment and providers and whatever, you can get assessed through them. And I imagine it would be heaps cheaper. I haven't looked at their fees, but it's probably heaps cheaper and probably easier. But then you get assigned to a facility or a school or whatever that
Oh, wow.
yeah, and then you
Okay.
go and visit on their schedule.
Mm.
For some people, that probably works a treat. Well, it must, because I'm pretty sure those dogs are everywhere, but which is good. But if you want a little bit more flexibility than that, and you want to organize your own visits, or you want to visit, your grand's nursing home or whatever, we don't dictate where people can go, which is why you need to buy your own insurance. Because I have a feeling, again, I'm making this up. I have a feeling that those other companies, they are covering you under their insurance. I'm actually pretty sure they've been told that before. So for that to be the case, it's my understanding, for that to be the case, you've got to go to these places that they've sent you on the roster. Whereas we just get people to, you just buy your own insurance, like, just not you're not employed by us. Like,
Yeah,
you
you're in
don't
charge of.
volunteer. Yeah, you don't volunteer for Therapy Dogs Australia. You become whoever you are, doing whatever you're doing. And you buy your own insurance policy, which is, we know that that's possible, because we've got heaps of teams out there doing it. So
Good to know. Okay.
yes.
Where can therapy dogs go in Australia? Leads on
Any
from us.
anywhere where um the person in charge has given permission. So whether that's management, store owners, facility management, so like your nursing homes, like it'll go through to their facility management and they'll make a decision. They'll often ask for, your certificates and things like that as well. Yeah. Anywhere that you ask permission and you get granted permission. There's some obviously rules around areas that are like, what's that word? Sterile environments. So, and just be reasonable about that sort of stuff. Like don't take dogs into places where it can compromise sanitation or hygiene. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can my dog be a therapy dog in New Zealand?
Yes, your dog can be a therapy dog in New Zealand. We've got our Therapy Dogs Aotearoa arm that's available for people that are across the ditch.
Mm.
So just hit us up with that. We are still, I think New Zealand is very much in the same space as Australia right now, in that there's no precedent. So that's why a lot of this stuff is like our best guess, is because we don't have any precedent that we're aware of in Australia where people have been sued or charged or disciplined or things like that. So in the canine industry at least. So that's, yeah, why we have to come up with at this best practice model, basically, is kind of what we're trying to address with these frequently asked questions, is like, what can we put together as making the most sense from an ethical and moral standpoint to inform us in our best practice model. So New Zealand, we're just doing the same thing with you guys.
Okay, well, here we've covered this one, but I'll ask the question again. Will my dog have public access rights upon completion of the course?
No.
No. And that's obviously, like we talked about with assistance dogs versus therapy dogs versus companion dogs. No, therapy dogs don't have public access rights.
They do not.
They don't need them.
They don't need them.
The next question is, do you train assistance service companion dogs? No.
No. No, we don't.
Okay, so courses. Which course is right for me, community or clinical?
So we have an entire podcast on this. If you really want to indulge in that as well, you can. So yeah, anyone who is making that choice, I think it's season 2 and it's the last episode in season 2. Basically, the clinical course is designed for people who are bachelor educated in their associated field of practice. So I talk about it in the other podcast, but it doesn't mean, well, you've got a bachelor education in accounting and so now you're going to do the clinical course. The whole point of that clinical course is it's for the people who are going to be doing animal assisted therapy with their dogs. So animal assisted therapy is that therapeutic intervention. So animal assisted interventions. So if you're not in a therapy role, so regular bachelor trained professionals who are not in therapy roles who do come through our courses is people like GPs. Then they don't need the clinical course. Dentists don't need the clinical course. There's certain, fields like that. You just do the community course. It's cheaper and it's easier.
And it's the same content except
it's
for
the same
one day.
content. It's the same content. So yeah, it's whether you're in allied health or you're in education. If you're bachelor trained, then you can choose to do the clinical course. If you're not bachelor trained, so if you're someone who's done, like a diploma of counselling or youth work or disability support or teacher aid, those kinds of things, go into the community course. If you're, like I said, one of those allied health, like a dentist or like a podiatrist, that's not doing, so the clinical course really is for educators, so teachers, guidance counselors, and then psychs, counselors, social workers, speechies, OTs, the ones who, like, we're doing a lot of therapeutic intervention, psychiatrists. Our main thing is like providing that therapy in a mental health sort of space. If you're doing the other stuff, I know that that's still called therapy when you're a podiatrist or whatever. But you just don't need to be dragged through all these discussions that we're having about like trauma-informed practice and like whatever. So go for the community one. The community one's great. Like it's the same content, but it's just less of that kind of we just have a space for the therapists that are doing like mental health type therapy, and the educators that are really utilizing their dog in that more intervention style way. We do get heaps of educators that choose the community course. And we get allied healths that choose a community course too. Like they can do whatever. Like
And sometimes it's just a matter of timing or convenience as well.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the dates. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So don't stress too much about that. People do, but
people
don't
do
need to stress over it.
The cost, like the cost is different. And you can, if you feel like you need more help after the community course, which has never happened, but if you did feel that way, you can always book supervision and things like that, and you'd get through a fair bit of that before you even got anywhere near the cost of the clinical course. So that would be a more cost-effective way of doing it. But anyway,
each to their own.
Each their own.
Okay, what if I want to train more than one dog? So
That's
if
good.
you have multiple dogs?
So you only need to do the course once. We have got a podcast on working with multiple therapy dogs. I think it's in season 1. So that's pain in the bum for you for your reassessments, because it's expensive. It's expensive to reassess more than one dog, and it's a real pain to make the videos every year and get your temperament assessment done. But people do it, and good on them. Like they must just be prepared. But yeah, people have got 2 or 3 dogs with us, and yeah, they do them all at once, do them all in one hit. Which is cool. We've got quite a few people that have got multiple dogs. Most people end up getting multiple dogs, really. So they're either,
particularly if they're full time.
Exactly. Or they retire a dog and get a second dog. It's the same thing. So you don't need to pay to do the clinical or community course again, because that course is to train you as the handler. Some people choose to do it again because they want to, they enjoy it, and they want to do it as a refresher. And they're going to count it as their PD anyway, but you don't have to do it again. But you just need to pay the assessment costs for any additional dog. So whether that's a new dog because you've retired one, or it's a second or third dog because you're building your team.
Yeah, we do have quite a few.
There's heaps, yeah.
Yeah, big therapy dog families. All right, what are you looking for in a therapy dog?
So if you look at the podcast, it's the one right before this. You can see that we've kind of gone through these FAQs like in depth in these previous ones. But anyway, it's the whole pre-course consult. Okay, so we're season 3. This is episode 2 in season 3. So if you go season 3, episode 1, the whole pre-course consult's there, like forcing people to listen to it now.
It's
because
so good. It's
going to save money. It's going to save people money and time. So that's there. Generally speaking, we're looking for an outgoing, extroverted dog who loves meeting new people and likes, is quite robust in new spaces. We're not looking for dogs that take a long time, that take time to warm up. And we're not looking for dogs that are Velcro dogs on their human, who, they just want to be with their handler all day, because that's when you take them to visit people want the dog to show an interest in them. So yeah, make sure that you be try and be as unbiased about that. Probably if you saw me in my natural environment with my dogs, you'd be like, your dogs are Velcro dogs, like, because they are very bonded to me, um, more so than anybody else. So that's normal. But as you'll see, so, are they happy when someone else gives them attention and wants to interact with them? Are they happy to do that and they find that reinforcing? Then that's what we're looking for. So
Building
if you see,
relationships.
yeah, if you see the dogs working, you'll see that they aren't hanging out with me very much at all.
Mm, mm.
That can
But
be
yeah,
hard to be unbiased about, I guess, and your own dog. So maybe
yeah.
ask or go walk them down, a busy cafe precinct area, and
See if
you
they
know,
initiate.
yeah, see
Yeah.
if anyone wants to pat them, or like, and if someone pats them, do they enjoy it, or are they like, get away? Um, those kinds of things. If you're really unsure, you can book a pre-course consult.
Listen to the first
Um,
episode first before you do that.
yeah, listen to season 3, episode 1. What else was I going to say about that? What are we looking for in a dog? Healthy, fit, get some weight off them if they're overweight. Um, difficult to offend. So we don't want easily offended dogs. Otherwise, we're going to be trigger stacking on them throughout their jobs, which is cup emptying. So, if they're easily offended, then that means that we're emptying their cup gradually all day. Over the course of a couple of days in a week, you're going to end up with a dog that gets burnt out or pretty stressed or asks to increase its space by barking, growling, lunging, biting. So we're trying to avoid all of that, obviously. Dogs that are easily handled. So people are going to hug them. People are going to pat them. People are going to touch their feet. They don't have to enjoy every single form of touch, but they do have to tolerate touch. We do want to see them enjoying touch generally, but they don't have to enjoy being touched everywhere. Uh, it's a pain in the bum if they don't like being pat on their head, because
Mm.
that's where everyone goes to pat the dog. So when they duck away, what you'll see is people stop patting them because they think the dog doesn't want them to pat them. But really what's happened is the dog doesn't like the head being touched, and so they scoot out of the way. We can usually do some guiding. Oh, they prefer if you pat them here, and then the person pats them there, and then it's fine. My dogs are fine with head pats, and it just makes my life so much easier. So it's not an exclusion thing. It's just a lot easier. If the dogs are fine with it, you can do some counter conditioning and see if they work up to that. Check their ears as well, and listen to our
Yeah.
podcast with Narelle Cook about making our dogs physically more comfortable. If your dogs are finding certain touch or whatever aversive, then it might be the case that we need to look at their internal system. What else is easy or annoying? Oh, reactivity. Oh my gosh, I get asked about this all the time. The dog is dog reactive. That's not the be all and end all. So I know that sounds a bit crazy, but it is actually not the end of the world if the dog is dog reactive, but it is a pain. It is
Mm.
a pain. So we have issues with trying to toilet them, because you might be thinking, okay, I'll start at the beginning. I'm starting in the middle of an idea. When you have a dog reactive dog, that is a dog that barks and lunges and looks like it's trying to kill another dog when it walks down the street and sees another dog. Where that's not the be all and end all is when there's no other dogs around. This dog is so fine, like 1,000,000% fine, which is great for some workplaces. So there will be some workplaces where that it's just not an issue at all.
Mm. Yeah, there won't be any other dogs.
There's no other dogs. But there's going to be other workplaces where it is an issue, or you've got very limited control over the space. So there could be another dog at any time. You can't take those dogs out into the community with a client. No way. So totally not appropriate. The other thing is the handling of those dogs. Like you sort of I do think it's something that you should be able to handle. If your dog is reactive, I think you should be able to handle it and manage it and be actively working on it, because that's what makes you a dog handler. I don't think it's the kind of thing that we just go, oh, well, I just like that. And, the
Mm,
dog's lunging and carrying on at the end of the lead like a lunatic, and you're just sort of stood there frozen like a mullet, or just doing weird stuff that's not actually addressing it, and not actively trying to counter condition the dog. I think that's not wise, especially when, which we've talked about this in previous podcasts as well, but especially when a lot of reactivity is actually not that hard to fix. So I think it needs to be something that we're addressing. Where even when you're working in like private practice or where there's no other dogs, you do need to get your dog from the car to the clinic, and you do need to be able to walk your dog for toileting as well. And if those occasions become stress triggers for the dog, I think that's not good long term for the dog, that those times are supposed to be their de-stressing time, but it's actually super stressful, especially if the handler is nervous that they're going to run into another dog.
they'd be picking up on that
Yeah, and so
eventually.
we really want those break times to be the dog's break. But if your handler's not coping, then it's not a break. So
Mm.
it's just everyone's dysregulated. So I don't think that's wise. So I do see issues with it, but I also say, like, I think that's a pre-course consult question. And I think it's just depends. It's one of those ones that it's just depends on your setup.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, this is a good one. What age can my dog be a therapy dog?
12 months. So the other question we get asked is the top range. So I would say, again, this is in the pre-course consult podcast, but I would say the capping age would be about 10. But in saying that, every dog's different, it depends. My dog is 12 and he still sees clients when we have clients at the farm, and he loves it. So, and he's fine. Would I take a 12-year-old dog in to be trained and assessed for a new career? Probably not. I don't think it's a wise use of my money. But in saying that, if you want to start with your older dog, and this is, part of their sort of giving back to the community or whatever, if you want to start with an older dog and then you get a younger dog, you get a new dog, you'll have a lot of these skills already down pat. Anyone who's got a senior dog at home knows that these dogs are pretty much doing whatever they want. So I wouldn't put Sunny through a new training regime, and be changing my expectations of him at this age, because he is already letting me know which rules don't apply to him anymore, which is so far about 30% of the rules. Which is really standard for senior dogs. Like they
Yeah.
just get to this age and they just like, so like I put all their bowls down and say, okay, for them to eat. 11 years he's done it perfectly every day, but then they just get to a point where like he just starts eating once I put his bowl down, and everyone else has to wait. And then I say, okay. Some days I'm
I've
like,
earned it.
literally, some days I'm like, oi, and
Mm.
he stops. But because you let them get away with it, they just do whatever they
And
want.
it's so cute.
It's so cute.
Yeah, the senior
I
babies.
You see people talking about it on like Instagram and that, where there's like the senior dog that's doing whatever they want. And I think it's so funny how like senior dogs seem to just know that they've reached that point. And I was thinking about, because he did it this morning, and I was thinking about this morning, and I was like, I just think it's kind of cute that like he just knows that these rules don't really apply to him anymore. Like he's not gonna get it,
Yeah.
he's not gonna get in trouble. Like like he's just reached that stage. He just does a few little things that yeah. His recall's shocking at the moment.
He's like, what? No, I
Can't
can't
hear.
hear
I think they can.
you.
So like
Yeah.
yesterday it was raining. I was out in the yard having a mental breakdown about this dog run, putting it
Oh
together.
no, yeah, it looks like a big job.
Yeah, it's massive. And my partner had gone into the shed, which is like right down the other side. The dogs are like under the carport because it was raining.
Yeah.
And some packages had arrived during the week.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how they're in that plastic.
Mm-hmm.
So he's started unwrapping these packages because they were just sitting in the shed. Oh, Sonny heard that, didn't he? It sounded like the crinkling of a packet.
Yeah, yeah. And
Heard
it's such a subtle sound too,
heard
but
that. It wasn't even a packet. It was that like soft plastic that stuff comes in the
yeah.
packages. And he's in the carport. This would be at least, you'd be looking at least 50 meters away, if not more, under a tin roof with it raining, like not heavy rain, but it's raining. And this person's inside a shed, like opening a packet. And
No, this
this
here is
dog,
fine.
he's up and he's like, oh, we better go check that out. Nala's like, well, let's go. Okay, let's go. Off we go. I was like, okay, so I think your hearing's probably fine. And you're just,
Perfectly fine.
yeah, choosing to ignore me. Which is fine because it's a senior dog. So
Yeah.
I personally wouldn't put because we have expectations on obviously the behavior and the manners of the dog. So we can make some what's it called when you exceptions. We can make some
Yeah.
exceptions for senior dogs. We're not going to make them do they're not it can be as athletic. But just remember, if we're making exceptions for your dog, we're putting restrictions on them too. So um, for a dog to not be given restrictions on what they're allowed to do in their therapy dog role, then they need to be meeting whatever criteria. If they don't meet the criteria, then we'll be absolutely putting restrictions on them. And that's the case for dog reactive dogs as well. We'll be putting restrictions on your graduation for that as well. Because like we say all the time, not all therapy dog jobs are the same. So we don't want dogs missing out when they actually do have something to offer to the community and will enjoy it. But also we're not just passing all these random dogs with all these issues and just being like, off you go. Like it doesn't work like that. We're putting quite strong restrictions in place. Some of them are getting reassessed more regularly. Some of them are being asked to provide additional documentation or videos or whatever. So the actual process of getting the graduation is not straightforward, which is a real pain for me because there's a lot of cognitive load with each graduation, each team. I look at all of all their stuff, talking to their locum trainers and all that sort of stuff as well. So there's a lot that goes into it. But yeah, so I don't know about the really senior dogs. However, it depends. Young dogs, so 12 months is the minimum age that we will graduate a dog. However, you can start your puppy and adolescent training through our programs. We don't recommend that puppies and adolescents are taken into the workplace, even for training on the job, unless you have a very specific setup. And we did do a podcast on that, didn't we?
Yeah, it was season 1. Talking about can you bring your puppy into a school?
We did that one, and I think there was one in season 2 as well. About like, can I take my young dog to work or whatever? And that was where I really laid it out around all the risks that are involved, which includes teaching a dog bad habits accidentally. So there's all that stuff to consider there in terms of the long-term career of your therapy dog.
And we also have season 2, episode 16, talking about future therapy dog puppies and avoiding the workplace. So there is that one too.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah. Yep. So there's a lot of information around that.
Yes. Okay. So we try and keep these like, because some of these questions, like I said, like they've really been gone into a lot more detail in those specific podcasts. So if these are the things that you're thinking of, then go back and go to those podcasts about it. Yeah.
Why should I do this training when there is no regulation in this industry?
Great question. Answer A, insurance. It's going to be difficult for some people to get insurance if they haven't done any training. B, best practice model. So a lot of people have been already taking dogs into the workplace and schools and stuff like that Then they come and do our courses and they're like, oh my goodness, I just can't believe I didn't know all this. Like, wow, this is just a lot of information and I'm really glad I
Thank
did this.
goodness.
Thank goodness I did this. And we go, yeah, that's why we have the courses. So the idea is that we're informing ourselves as much as we can, so that we can be the best animal assisted therapists that we can be. If you really believe in animal assisted therapy and you really believe in the benefits of therapy dogs and things like that, then that tells me that you know that it's real. It's not just, I want to bring my dog to work because I don't want to leave it at home. That tells me that you know that the benefit to your clients is real. Okay. So if you know that there can be a benefit to the relationship between your dog and your client, so well, just like any relationship, then there must be consequences to ruptures in that relationship. There must
Mm.
be difficult areas to navigate with that relationship. So how are you managing that? Do you know what all of those are? If not, then I think it is wise that you go and find someone that offers some training that you would be interested in, as a professional development opportunity, and also as a best practice model. So, like, I do think it's a good idea for us, anyone that's going to start offering a new and different form of therapy. I do think it's very wise that you become educated in that modality, for lack of a better term. Animal assisted therapy is not its own modality, but yeah, best practice and insurance.
I'd definitely say there's that duty of care as well. If
Mm,
things go wrong, you want to be able to show that you were trying to do the best that you could do in that situation. I feel like training comes under that as well.
yeah, you have to show that. So
Yeah.
that is not a question. So if
Mm.
something goes wrong, you will be held accountable and you will have to show that you have done everything in your power to prevent that thing from happening. It's not going to be good enough to say, well, I didn't know that that risk
Mm.
existed, because there's that many training options available now. There's that much information available now that that won't be an excuse. That's Ignorance is not going to be an excuse, especially when you've got providers like us that are doing the training online and we've got all these options that make it so accessible, including a free podcast with all this information in it, um, and self-paced module, offerings and stuff like that. Like we've really reduced a lot of the barriers. Nationwide,
Yeah.
like we've got people in rural areas, we've got people in Northern Territory, Tasmania, Western Australia, like we've got people that can't, that would not being able to access training would have been a not excuse, but it would have
A
been something.
barrier.
Yeah, it would have been a
Mm.
barrier for them. That barrier is not there anymore. So there really isn't going to be much to fall back on. And if you got this far and you're listening to this, I think that you've probably already made up your mind that training is probably a good idea.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
used to get asked that question weekly. I used to get asked that question. I hardly ever get asked it anymore, hardly ever. So that does show a little bit how much the industry's changed. But I do see people online on our Facebook groups, psychologist Facebook groups, who are taking dogs into work and haven't done any training and have no idea. You can tell from what they're saying, they've got no idea about best practice and things like that. And I do get a little bit tired of explaining to people who should know damn well exactly what
Mm.
the
Well, when you've done that
expectations.
that much training as well
Yeah.
already, you'd think that you'd want to be sure.
If if you yeah, yeah. Some people are just going to do what they want to do, and that's none of my business. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
mm.
All right. How often will I need to be reassessed and why?
Every 12 months. That is because it is really important that we maintain a high standard of professional career dog and handlers. Accountability is key. So if you don't, I know that 12 months goes really quickly, especially when you get a bit older. It goes really fast, and it's a pain in the bum to get reassessed and all that sort of thing. However, I do think it is important to have those deadlines for accountability to make sure that you're touching up on your dog's skills and your handling skills and things like that. So try and think of it like like another PD thing, like just something else to keep you keep your skills sharp. The dog needs a dog's temperament, like lots of things can happen in the space of a year. We have dogs fail their reassessments. So that's really key because it means that those teams have fallen apart a bit, or something's happened to the dog, or something's happened, or whatever, and something's gone pear-shaped. But the issue with that is that insight or self-evaluation piece hasn't been there. So that person should know that the dog's not right, or that they aren't right, or the situation's not right, or whatever. Something's gone pear-shaped. Not everybody has, it's hard. It's your animal. Like, it's hard not to be biased with it. And you do need that outside perspective and accountability to make sure that get someone to check in on your dog and make sure that the dog's okay, and I know that can be really hard. So we also don't just fail dogs, or teams. There's a real process involved in that. So it's not just a case of you're no good anymore. That's our opinion. And so, yeah, that it's always a conversation, and it's always some kind of plan, and it's always, trying to let people tell us what they think is going on. And, we have a conversation, a bit of guided self-evaluation as well about how's the dog really going and all that sort of stuff. And if they're like, nah, the dog, I'm pretty sure this dog's fine, we just do more. We just keep going until we are sure either way. So, because it can be hard to assess dog just at one time point. So yeah, just wanted to reassure people about that. We need people you need your dog temperament tested. So that's the hands, eyes on the dog. We need to make sure that the dog hasn't developed any conditions where they might be more nervous, anxious, disinterested in people, things like that. People that choose not to do their yearly reassessments, we don't really know where they are or what they're doing. It's, again, one of those things that I can't control. But I know that sometimes people are, doing things like going on maternity leave and stuff like that. Or they've chosen to retire their dogs, or their workplace doesn't, I've got one at the moment, their workplace doesn't allow them the dog, new workplace doesn't allow the dog, so then they skipped a year. There's all sorts of situations like that. So if you have skipped a year, don't be worried. Or even if you just skipped a year because you just didn't want to do it, don't be worried. You can come back. There is a time limit. We are assessing these cases because we do have people coming back that we haven't seen for 3 or 4 years. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be surely a challenge for you, surely. So we're just making decisions based off of the conversations that we have with those people about how to best re-enter them into our program. But yeah, don't feel like you can't contact us just because you've been doing whatever you want for a year and you kind of want to get back in the program. That's fine. Or 2 years, 3 years, or whatever. I think we've literally got one that's 5 years. So, that's fine. Get back in touch. However, yeah, it's about, I guess, personal accountability, professional accountability, upholding a professional standard of therapy dog handler and the dogs themselves.
Yeah, I was going to ask if something does happen and then, you get the professional questions as to the background of the dog and the training. I suppose the benefit to saying that you're reassessing every year is really important.
It's
I
going to be
imagine.
really important because we expire the certificates. So every time I issue a certificate, it expires in 12 months or less if there's an issue.
Yeah, so you don't really want to be handing over expired
Look,
certificates in the
I
event that you need to
yeah,
show that information.
I don't think that your insurance company is going to accept that.
Mm.
I just don't think so. Um, I don't know if there are other ways to get reassessed, but that's something for people to look into as well. Um, this is, a new enough industry. I don't know what other people are doing. We won't reassess a dog and handle a team that's come to us from another company. The reason for that is because we don't know what they've taught you. So we need to make sure that we're all on the same page as to what our standards are, which is frustrating because it comes up all the time. And there are people who want to reassess with us that have trained elsewhere. And I'm telling them, sorry, like you're going to have to do a course, which sucks because it's a huge financial investment. One of the issues around that has been location. So people that have, it's become not feasible for them to assess with whoever they did their initial training with. For some of them, it's professional development stuff, like they want access to our members portal and things like that. Sorry, like we have to get you up to speed. Like we just don't know what you already know. So, and to get you up to speed, we really need to do a course. So sorry, like
It'd be really hard as well to go through the reassessment and do all of these things that maybe their dogs had never been
and
trained to do.
no
Be a
way
waste
that
of money to pay for that reassessment as
there's
well.
no way that we could just give you our reassessment, like our reassessment information, folders and documentation and stuff. That's all been explained to our students during their courses as to why we're doing it this way and how to get the dog working this way and blah, blah, blah. I just cannot fathom a situation where someone's just given those documents and we're like, okay, good luck.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't I can't understand that. So and I think we would have to spend hours explaining. I think the questions becoming in thick, like, what is this? What is that? What is this? It would
And
be
you may as well have done
hours.
the course.
Might as well have done the course.
Yeah.
Like, because I guarantee there's other stuff you've missed out on as well. Um, so yeah, I'm just letting people know, like, you might as well just, and we have people that do the course and they love it. So, even we've got our students that have done our course twice, like,
Yeah, it's
so,
great courses.
and that you get something out of it. You're going to get something out
Mm.
of it each time. But, and yeah, the point being, we won't do it. But I don't know, maybe others do it. So if
Mm.
you don't want to reassess with Therapy Dogs Australia, then maybe you should ask other companies if they will do it. I think that's a better option than just not doing it. I don't think you should just not reassess your dog. I don't think that's wise for you moving forward. I don't think it's an ethical way to treat your dog in regards to their welfare, even though I know we all think we know our dogs so well, blah, blah, blah. Um, yeah. So
Yeah.
just keep that in mind. I don't know what the options are, but yeah.
And then what happens if I am not reassessed, which is the
I think that you're not insured.
expiry?
Depends on your insurance company.
Mm.
But I would say that there would be an implication there. Um, we're also not, I mean, all of our teams are responsible for themselves anyway. Like when they go out into the community, like we don't, and that's one of those things, like I was mentioning before, we don't tell you where to go, we don't tell you this and that. So you buy your own insurance, all that sort of stuff. You're responsible for yourself. We have documentation, we've got paperwork about the assessments that we've done with you and the work that you've done with us. So at the time that we assessed your dog, this is what was observed. These are the decisions that we've made, blah, blah, blah. If something goes pear-shaped, you will have evidence that you've done that. So that's one of the things that you have done to try and prevent this from happening, this accident that's taken place. You will be asked to provide that.
Mm.
So I can tell you now, you will be asked for that. So if that happens and you don't have anything to provide in terms of an up-to-date assessment, up-to-date information from people that have said, yes, we've looked at the dog, and you sign something to say that what we've seen from the dog is a true representation of the dog and all that sort of stuff. So if you're just like, oh my God, please don't bite anyone today, Buster, and then like you get through the assessment with your dog not biting me, and I'm like, oh, lovely, but that this dog bit your neighbor's kid yesterday, that we do get you to sign something to say that we've seen, you've reported that sort of thing to us, like bloody God, because it's not possible for us
No,
to. Yeah.
no, you have to have duty of care
Yeah.
as the
Yeah.
individual and the handler. Yeah.
And it is your duty of care
Yeah.
as the individual handler. Like we don't take that responsibility from you. But we provide you this advice based on what we've seen from the dog at this time. This is the learning that you've done with us, da 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 da. So if something does go pear-shaped, you at least have something that you can show someone to say, I tried to do the best I could. And here you go. If you don't have anything like that, I just think it would be a very stressful scenario when someone's asking you to provide whatever documentation and you're like, shit, like I don't have any.
Yeah.
But again, you're your own person and you can make your own decisions about what you want to do for yourself, your clients, and your dog, your students. So yeah, but that's some of the things that I think inform the decisions that other people make.
Yeah.
Some of those points.
All right, I've got last question on the page here, which is, can I book individual supervision training without having attended the course?
Yes. So that can be a good way to continue with your PD, is to get that, book in for the supervision. The self-paced course, so if you have trained with someone else and you want to move over to Therapy Dogs Australia, let us know, because if you're looking at the price of the courses and you're like, no, absolutely not, let us know, because there may be something we can do to make that more achievable for you. We are not giving away courses for free because people have chosen to jump ship. That's not happening. But there are ways that we can try and make it more achievable, especially like we've had groups before, groups of people that have been in that situation. So contact us. The idea of the self-paced stuff is that you can work through it at your own pace independently, which if you already know all of that content would be really fast. But if you are counting professional development hours, you get 4 or 5 hours of one-on-one supervision with that course. So when you kind of look at the cost of supervision, if you're needing to, log supervision hours for PD, it can be, if you time it right, put it in the year where you haven't clocked. So like, maybe wait until next year's PD clock starts if you've already got enough PD for this year, and invest your time and money that way.
That's with the
Because
self-paced.
yeah,
Yeah, specifically. Yeah.
the supervision hours are with the self-paced. I think that makes it achievable and a sensible option. The group courses, you still get all your PD hours, you just don't get the supervision hours, So have a look into that, be strategic about that as well, and look at, okay, so how can I get the most bang for my buck here? I'm the kind of person that would probably do the individual. I'd probably prefer individual. Yeah, you just get like, it's a lot more targeted to exactly what you're, yeah. So I do like that kind of thing. But I like group stuff too. So I don't know. I'll probably do both. I don't know. Did that answer that question? What was that question?
Yeah, that was, can I book individual supervision
Oh,
and training without having attended the course?
yeah. Yep. Yeah, the podcast has really taken over. We were going to put together some more PD stuff, but the podcast has really taken all of our content for that. So it's not, it's
You're
probably,
welcome.
yeah,
But also
thanks a
not.
lot.
Sorry.
We better start getting some sponsorship deals soon, 'cause
Yeah.
taking up all our time and money, and what's it called? Information. What's that called? When you own your information. What's that name for that?
When you own the
I'm having a
information.
mind blank of, it's like not copyright, it's
Intellectual
intellectual
property.
property. That's it. Haha. Um, so yeah, so use the podcast as PD as well, guys. Make sure that you're doing that because that's where all of our PD information is.
You're welcome.
So the reason I'm saying that is because we're going to put more PD workshops together. We're not really doing that at the moment because we're doing this instead. So if you want to do supervision, it's going to be one-on-one sort of stuff. Or we've got group supervision monthly, Monday, 12:30. So in your lunch break, hopefully on Mondays,
Online
monthly.
via Zoom.
Online via Zoom.
Very convenient.
Dates are on the website. You can book it through the online store. So the group supervision is a bit of fun. And yeah, individuals always available too.
That's it for the questions on the website.
Okay, I think we've covered, I guess like one thing would be like what's the terminology of animal assisted therapy, animal assisted intervention, and animal assisted activities. That gets asked a lot too. The whole thing's a bit of a mess, but animal assisted activities is when you're doing like visitation type stuff and there's no formal therapeutic goal to the interaction. Animal assisted therapy is when there is an actual animal assisted intervention. Those two terms, there's a little bit of a kerfuffle around that. Animal assisted therapy is supposed to be your goal-oriented, evidence-based stuff. So that's when the client comes to me to learn about anger management and I incorporate the dog into this anger management strategy that I'm teaching them that's like a CBT strategy. And the dog's just helping me facilitate that because like what I always do is we read the Red Beast book, which is a book about the red beast wakes up inside the kid and it's their anger. So anyway, you do the book, read the book, and then you're like, oh, Sunny's got a red beast. And they're like, what? And I'm like, and then I like draw a picture of a dog with a red monster inside their tummy. And then I like do like, these are all the things that wakes up Sunny's red beast. A, being recalled. B, having to wait when your dinner gets put down. And then you do the kids, and then you're like, what wakes up your red beast? And because you've done the dogs one, the kid's like, my sister looking at me. Whatever it is. But if you do it without the dog, this might seem silly, but if you do it without the dog and you just go straight to the kid and go, what wakes up your red beast? I'll be like, I don't have a red beast. And then I have to argue with them about how, well, the book says everyone has one. Okay. So
you do.
You do have one. And also I think it's waking up right now. Oh, you're breaking everything. Oh, you broke up the book. Oh no. Okay, fine. Have it your way. You don't have a red beast. No. I've had like not plenty because I learned my lesson, but I've had quite a few scenarios like that where it's like, I don't have a red beast. I'm like, damn it, because I've like forgotten to do it with the dog. Or sometimes it's fun to do it that way and then be like, oh, that's weird because Nala's got a red beast, and then I'll do the Nala one. And by the time you've done the Nala one, because you can do what wakes up a red beast and what puts it back to sleep. By the time you've done the dog one, you usually got the kid happy enough to do their one. So anyway, that is animal assisted therapy. So that's when I'm specifically using the dogs in the room and I'm specifically incorporating the dog into my that's a CBT strategy of identifying triggers and implementing strategies to manage anger. So that is animal assisted therapy. Animal assisted activities is a fantastic, beautiful thing. So if you want to do animal assisted activities, that is the community course. If you're doing animal assisted therapy, that's going to be the clinical course. I hope that clears that up a little bit.
Yeah, it does.
I think they made animal assisted services an umbrella term.
Yeah.
But these are changing. There's no no real consistency in the research, in the literature as well. So you'll see those terms being interchanged, but basically the core of it is that either the dog's presence is not goal oriented and it's just nice to have the dog here, and it's the interaction is with the dog is just nice for people, versus that the dog's formally being integrated into a goal directed evidence based intervention, or whatever you want to call it, for this particular client, student, classroom, group, whatever.
Mm, mm. Yeah.
We don't have any regulatory bodies over animal assisted therapy yet. I think there's some interest groups around. But like, so in terms of like, psychologists don't have any formalized rules around that yet. I did hear on the grapevine, this is a little bit of tea for anyone that's bothered to listen to the podcast for this long. There were whispers of a couple of psychs that were disciplined for equine assisted stuff.
Mm.
Listen, it's at one point, I think things got ironed out in the end. Because at one stage there was someone on the register. There's a register, so when you get in trouble, get disciplined.
Oh, your name's on it.
It's on the website.
Ooh.
You can go and look at the website, the APRA Register of
Some public
Practitioners
shaming.
website. So much public shaming, dude. There's so much public shaming on there.
Oh,
It is
gosh.
ridiculous. It's the worst. It's to
Oh.
protect the client. See,
Yeah.
anyone who thinks that I rabbit on a bit about the welfare of the person, like you protect the client and vulnerable people, protect client, protect client, protect client. It's because it's been drilled into us. Any psychologist would be the same, or should be the same, because it has been drilled into the psychology profession that you must protect the client, protect the client. You got to do the right thing by the client, right thing by the client, right thing by the client, which is that's correct. Like, that is the right thing. But we just really had it drilled into us to the point where if you do the wrong thing, you are publicly shamed.
Oh.
You don't just get disciplined and, get, so you get things like increased supervision. Like, so your consequences can be like increased supervision, retraining in certain areas, suspension of your license for however long, things like that. And it lists the consequences on there. But it also lists what you did, like, in detail. And a lot of the time it's things that are like, people that have entered into intimate relationships when they shouldn't have, and stuff like that. It's all on there. It's full on. So
Certainly a
and
deterrent.
yeah, well, and it's like, like back in the day of like, I don't know, caveman times or biblical times or whatever, when it was like, this person has committed a crime, we're gonna like walk them down the street and throw rocks at them. Like,
Yeah. Public shaming. Oh my goodness.
it gives those vibes. But the point of it, so the point of the register is that your future clients, even after you've been in trouble, your future clients can look at that and go, oh, okay, so
and make a decision.
they get to make a decision about whether or not they want to enter into such a vulnerable power imbalance with relationship with you, which is what that's why we get it, because it's such a power imbalance relationship. That's why we get it drilled into us so much, to not, to be very respectful of people's vulnerabilities, basically. So yeah, but the other industries aren't the same. So that's probably like, I think people would probably be like, calm down. Like, I'm like, no. That's where all this stuff comes from. But anyway, I can't remember what I was talking about that. Oh, this equine stuff. So there was at least one person's name was up there, but it's not there anymore. So I don't know if something happens with that.
Maybe they fulfilled obligations, or
but it stays up there.
Oh, never comes down.
I'm pretty sure it stays up there forever.
Oh wow. Wow, that is
There's some
a
historical
consequence.
ones. I know. so anyway, the grapevine because it is anyone that's especially in psychology, but especially Brisbane psychology, knows it's a really small world. So along the grapevine, what had happened was providing animal assisted by definition.
Can you repeat that? You
When
broke up.
providing animal assisted activities by formal definition when we were supposed to be providing animal assisted therapy.
Ah, okay.
Okay, so I, as a psychologist, am not in a position to provide animal assisted activities. There must be a goal. There must be a therapeutic goal, and I must be using evidence-based modalities to approach that goal. Now, whoever your third party funder is for this client's appointment, so whether that be Medicare, NDIS, or a private fee paying client, which would just come under your APRA rules, because Medicare and NDIS have got rules of their own, separate to, in addition to the APRA rules. Okay. So you need to know who your third party is, because you need to be abiding by their rules in that appointment with the therapies that you are allowed to use and the goals that you're allowed to work on. So under you're not allowed to work on all goals underneath those third parties. If you get audited, you are going to be in trouble and you have to pay all the money back.
Ooh.
So consequences are heavy in psych, dude. I am in the wrong field. I'm actually in the perfectly right field, because I'm like,
it
yes,
really
yes,
is.
yes. What are the rules? What are the rules? I would be a loose unit if I didn't have so much structure, I think. But anyway, we'll never know. So, then, so I need to know who my third party is. I need to know what modalities I'm allowed to use. I need to know what goals I'm allowed to work on. And then I better bloody do it. And I better bloody case note it correctly. And I better be on my best behavior the entire time. And my dog better not bite anybody. So there's all these, like, it's like quite involved. Like, there's all these like bits and pieces to it. And if you're in my same boat, so if you're in the same situation, whether it's psych or whatever your regulatory whatever is, and so remember, APRA is not a professional choice body, it's a governing body. So you can't just be like, oh, well, stuff APRA, I'm not going to follow their rules. Just like, so like I'm a member of AAPI, which is a choice to be a member of the professional body. So if I just disagreed with AAPI rules, I could just be like, oh, I'm just going to cancel my membership and not renew it. Or APS, it's not the same. APRA is governing. So you
have no choice.
You have no choice. You are governed by, not all allied healths are governed by APRA. Not many are. So, and their rules are all different. So like OT's rules are different to our rules. So really different. So there's all these things that you have to be aware of and consider, but this is where we've developed our best practice model from. So in terms of things like understanding what animal assisted activities is and what animal assisted therapy is and stuff like that, but being like sort of stepped through this process of like what your obligations are professionally and what a best practice model probably looks like, because it's been developed. So Amy's a psychologist as well, who's our other course facilitator. She's a psychologist and a teacher. So being stepped through that model by people who live it every day is a little bit different to being sort of suggested a few things by someone who's not under the same level of regulation that we are, and by certainly by someone who's a dog trainer and isn't experienced in providing human services. So that's probably something to take away and have a think about, is we, especially Amy and I, so Caitlin's a counselor, so she's not held to all those rules. Do you know what I mean? Like she's registered with ACAP or whatever, which you can get kicked out of. And then that does limit your funding options. So if you aren't in ACAP ACAP, Australian Counsellors, yeah. Then you can't use NDIS funding. So that would be a big issue. That'd be a big blow. So there's a bit of incentive there. But they don't have the same, like it's not the same as APRA. It's not the same scenario. But still, like, so Caitlin's one of our other course facilitators and dog trainers. It's one of those things where it's like we do actually see clients or students every day. Every day? Am I every day? Yeah, every day. And it's not actually an option for us to just, yeah, like if something goes wrong, like we're actually going to be accountable. So I think that's something to consider as well when you're choosing a provider based on what industry you're in, and how relevant that's going to be to you. Yeah, just have a bit of a
Yeah, I
think
didn't know
about
about
that.
that. I didn't know that there was, professional consequences based on the terminology and like what you do with your therapy dog.
I think it's so, like, they won't know that terminology, like they're not going to know that
Mm,
terminology, but it's other
it's good to know.
people. Yeah, it's just so the gossip along the grapevine was that those psychologists were working with their horses, but they weren't using really like evidence-based modalities with
Yeah.
the horses. And so that's what these bodies, depending on who they are, would consider not okay. So
Would that have come around from being reported by a client
it was at least
or the
one of
body
them,
itself
the
auditing?
um a, another clinician.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
So that's what I heard. But anyway, so there was a fair bit of talk about it at the time. It was a couple of years ago. That's not to have a go at anyone. That's literally
Mm,
just to bring it up and go, I haven't heard anything about anything like that in the dog stuff yet, but I have heard about that now 2 times in the equine stuff. So it is something to be aware of. And we just need to make sure that we understand for ourselves what we're doing, what animal assisted therapy is, what animal assisted activities is. Just it doesn't mean that you can't do animal assisted activities at all. So I might there are heaps of sessions, like this is like something gets asked a lot as well. There are heaps of sessions that I do that the dog's not really a part of it. Like even farm sessions, like there's sessions that I do where the animals aren't really a part of it. And I just make sure I case note that. Like maybe they pat the goats or whatever, but it wasn't what we were doing. Like
yeah.
that
You're
wasn't the
walking
therapy.
past the goat pen and
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, we
towards
can
someone
come and
else.
sit inside and pat the dogs and have your normal session. So normal talk based,
Mm,
maybe it's psychoeducation, maybe it's CBT, maybe it's whatever it is. A normal psychology session, we can do that sitting inside with the dogs, or we can do it sitting outside with the goats. If we do it sitting outside with the goats, I need to make a comment about why we were taken outside of our uh, typical clinical space,
mm.
um, which for most of my clients, it's engagement. It's 100% about engagement because these clients won't go anywhere else or do anything or say anything or nothing to anyone at ever, like unless they're at a farm, like that's always, and that's for most animal assisted stuff. That's going to be the case is that,
Mm.
yeah, the dog's not really doing anything. They sort of just walked in and patted it and said something positive about the dog or whatever. But if I don't have the dog, like
And they're not likely to
yeah,
start
they
a
don't.
conversation or anything. Yeah.
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
they don't even, so I've got kids, for example, who they come and see me and they do whatever, but they've been through 3 OTs and 2 speeches because they just will
Mm.
refuse, or they go there and just abuse them. They, just call them names and
Mm.
carry on and whatever. But they'll come to their psychology appointment and I don't get any carry on. I might get a little bit, but I don't, not really, and they keep
Yeah.
coming to their appointment. So you just got to make sure that you sort of case note that sort of thing so that you're making it clear. Like, and it doesn't mean, yeah, the dogs don't have to be a part of the intervention necessarily. They can have that role of your engagement and rapport and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, that's really good to know.
Attention. Hopefully that's answered a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just created more questions.
It could have. But if that's the case, you can always get in touch with us on our socials or send an email.
We could do a part 2. Yeah, send us your questions.
We've always got lots of questions. Love answering questions. It's the most easy way for us to help you.
Yeah.
Is when you ask us questions.
And it lets us know what people are trying to find out too. So then we can do things like this or put posts up and whatever that helps other people have those questions answered too.
Thanks, Sam.
Pleasure. Thanks, Max.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. If you're interested in studying with Therapy Dogs Australia or you have a few more questions before deciding, please get in touch with us by emailing courses@therapydog.com.au or visiting our website at www.therapydog.com.au for more information and FAQs.